What if today was the day you decided to stop letting fear control your life? Not by simply hiding it, not by pretending you're invincible, but by uprooting it completely. Imagine living in a world where fear no longer has a say in what you do. You speak your truth, follow your beliefs, and pursue what you truly desire. No more waiting for the right moment. No more retreating just because things are unclear. Who could you become if that inner voice whispering, "Be careful, don't try, don't dream too big," had no power over you? This video isn't just another motivational speech. You're about to learn how to confront fear with a time-tested philosophy that's over 2,000 years old, Stoicism. It's not about abstract concepts, it's about daily practice. It's about mastering your emotions, controlling your mind, and standing firm amid chaos. This is how warriors, emperors, and ordinary people faced real challenges and kept moving forward. If you're ready to take control of your life, don't look away. The battle against fear starts inside you, and it begins right now. Number 1. The nature and role of fear. Fear doesn't mean you're weak or lacking bravery. It means you're human. Fear is your body's built-in alarm system, a result of millions of years of evolution designed to keep you alive. When our ancestors encountered a saber-toothed tiger, those who felt fear and fled were usually the ones who lived to see another day. Those who didn't, well, they didn't make it. That's why fear is hardwired into our nervous system. It's a key part of our survival instinct. Whenever you sense danger, whether it's a predator in the wild or an ominous email from your boss, your amygdala, the brain's ancient radar, goes off. It's built to detect threats. Once fear is triggered, it sends a signal to the hypothalamus, setting off a biological chain reaction. Adrenaline floods your system. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow and fast. This is why you feel your chest tighten before an important conversation, even when there's no danger in sight. Fear can't tell the difference between life-threatening situations and high-pressure social interactions. To your brain, they both present danger. Fear isn't your enemy. It's your sentinel. It alerts, it defends, and it does its job, the same way it did when survival meant fleeing from predators. But in today's world, where threats often take the form of rejection, failure, or criticism, this ancient system can malfunction. Your brain might react to a missed email as if it were a lion stalking you in the grass. And that's the key. Fear isn't the problem. If you had no fear of heights, you might step off a cliff. If you had no fear of fire, you might walk straight into the flames. Fear is there to keep you safe, but only when it does its job of alerting, not controlling you. When fear grabs the wheel, when it doesn't just whisper but shouts, when it no longer warns but demands, you're not living, you're simply surviving. Here's the fascinating part. Brain scans reveal that just imagining a threat activates the same response as facing one. Even picturing yourself being embarrassed in front of a crowd can trigger your fight-or-flight response. You don't need a real event to feel fear. All it takes is a thought, a scenario, a mental what if, and your body reacts as if it's happening right now. But it goes even further. When fear takes control, your brain doesn't just respond, it escalates, it reprioritizes. Blood flow moves away from your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning, decision-making, and problem-solving, and rushes to your muscles, preparing you to flee. You stop thinking logically. You become impulsive, reactive, and driven by emotion. That's why fear leads to poor decisions. You're no longer thinking, you're just surviving. So if fear itself isn't the enemy, but our automatic reactions to it are, here's what really matters. Feeling fear doesn't mean you're in danger. It means something significant is at stake. The trembling in your hands isn't a sign of weakness. It's a signal that you're on the verge of something that could change your life. But this is where fear becomes most dangerous. Not in action, but in delay. When you freeze, when you say maybe later, when you put off a decision that you know is right just because you feel uncertain, anxious, or unprepared, that's when fear stops warning and begins controlling. Not because it's stronger than you, but because you didn't realize it took over. So ask yourself, are you truly in danger, or are you just reacting to an ancient reflex? Are you actually safe, or have you trapped yourself in your own imagination? Not everyone who feels fear is weak, but anyone who lets fear make their decisions is missing out on life's greatest opportunity, growth. The real danger isn't that you feel fear. It's that you believe fear knows the way. Because when you follow it for long enough, you forget what it feels like to choose your own path. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into one of the most common mistakes people make, mistaking the voice of fear for the voice of reason. The trap, when you mistake fear for truth. Imagine someone constantly walking beside you, whispering in your ear every time you're about to do something important. Don't say that, they'll think you're stupid. Don't try, you're not good enough. Sit still, don't mess it up. If that voice came from another person, you'd cut them off immediately. But because it comes from inside your own mind, you listen, you believe it, you obey, and you call it being realistic. But it's not. It's fear disguised as logic. The most dangerous part is that you don't even realize it's in control. We don't fall because of fear. We fall because we hand fear the wheel. We don't lose our dreams because someone tells us we can't. We lose them because when fear speaks, we turn away. We hold back, stay safe, and don't start. Not because we can't, but because a voice inside says, "Careful. What if you fail? Who do you think you are?" The tragic part is, fear doesn't need to shout. It just needs your agreement. Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Fear isn't in the situation. It's in the story we tell about it. The problem isn't the presentation, the rejection, or the risky opportunity. The problem is that we imagine disaster, and then we act as if it's already happened. Have you ever turned down an opportunity because you didn't feel ready? That wasn't true. That was an assumption, and when assumptions repeat, they become our reality. Let me share a story with you. You might see yourself in it. James, a 34-year-old engineer in London, always dreamed of doing creative work, designing, writing, building things that mattered to him. But every time an opportunity came, he pulled back. "I'm not the creative type. I've come too far to turn around." But the truth? He was afraid. Afraid of being bad at it, afraid of being ridiculed, afraid of starting over. Then one day, his company made layoffs. Suddenly, the change he had been avoiding came for him, so he wrote. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't polished, but it was real. 3 months later, he landed his first small contract. 6 months later, he was supporting himself with his creative work. When people asked what changed, he said, "I got laid off." For the first time in my life, fear didn't get to decide. Fear never truly disappears. It gets replaced by a greater purpose, by consistent action, and by a reason the voice inside can't argue with. Here's the hard truth. Safety is a cocoon. Warm but suffocating, soft but numbing. The more you seek safety, the more you sacrifice growth. Every time you avoid rather than engage, your ability to adapt, to innovate, and to bounce back shrinks. And when you need those qualities most, they won't be there. So ask yourself, if tomorrow forced you to change, would you be ready or would you crumble? Fear isn't a dictator, it's an employee. The problem is you've made it the CEO. From now on, let fear sit in the audience. It doesn't need to disappear. It just needs to be quiet. If something in this message resonated with you, a dream you paused, a chance you passed on, leave a comment. Write down what you've been wanting to do but haven't, because fear stood in your way. Naming it is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Say it out loud or type it below. And if you're serious about building a mind that's steady, strong, and no longer ruled by fear, hit that subscribe button. Not for entertainment, but for a daily reminder. Fear doesn't get to lead your life anymore. You do. Courage is not the absence of fear. Number 3, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward while fear still lingers. It's when your hands tremble, your heart races, your thoughts scream, but you take the next step anyway. One of the most damaging myths we believe is that we must conquer fear before we can act. We wait for calm, dry palms, quiet thoughts, steady breath. We think, once I feel ready, then I'll go. But if that's your plan, you could end up waiting forever. Have you ever seen a new dad hold his baby for the first time? His hands are shaking. He's terrified, scared of messing up, of dropping the child. But he holds on tight anyway. Or the young woman pacing before a job interview, stomach in knots, yet still she walks in. Or the teen stepping onto a stage for the first time, voice cracking, knees weak, but still they speak. These aren't fearless people. They're just people who made a choice. Fear doesn't get the final word. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Every day you rise, face uncertainty, take risks, endure heartbreak, and still you try. Still you care. Still you show up. That's what courage really looks like. So why do we believe we must be fearless to be brave? Here's the twist. Fear often shows up when we're about to do something that truly matters. It's not a wall, it's a signpost. And the closer you move toward it, the louder it shouts. But that doesn't mean it gets to drive. Fear can ride along, but only you hold the wheel. The people we admire as heroes didn't eliminate fear. They just didn't let it choose for them. Nelson Mandela once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." And long before him, the Bible reminded us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you." Courage isn't loud, it's quiet, it's personal. It's the simple vow, "I won't let emotion dictate my direction." Remember that call you almost didn't make? You stared at the contact name, hesitating. Your finger hovered, your mouth went dry, your mind looped disaster. But somehow, you still remember that moment. That was courage. You don't need to fight a war to be brave. Sometimes, courage is staying seated in a difficult conversation. Sometimes it's telling the truth when silence would be easier. So stop waiting to feel fearless. Try this. Count to 3 and go. 3 seconds is long enough to interrupt panic, short enough to move before it takes over. It's like hitting launch before fear convinces you not to. And here's the truth no one tells you. You don't have to remove fear to act. You just have to move anyway. Because every step you take in fear's presence weakens its grip. Not because fear disappears, but because you rise above it. And if you can do it once, you can do it again. That's how fearless people are built. Not by erasing fear, but by walking with it over and over again until their body learns. Fear isn't a stop sign, it's a starting line. So next time fear shows up, don't fight it. Don't waste energy trying to shut it down. Let it come along for the ride, but don't hand it the keys. Don't let it choose the route or set the destination. Take one step, just one. That's how change begins. That's how identity reshapes. And something happens when you stop running from fear and start walking beside it. It's not enough to survive it anymore. You begin to seek it out, because sometimes the door you're most afraid to open is the one hiding the life you've been searching for. Number 4, the fear hunting method. Fear doesn't dissolve just because you've analyzed it. You can journal, talk it out, reassure yourself with logic, but none of it removes the weight. Until you take action, fear stays right where it is, arms folded, calmly saying, "Still here." What weakens fear isn't more knowledge, it's contact. Not planning, but practice. Think of how cold water only loses its power when you dive in. It doesn't change temperature. You change your perspective. The Stoics knew this. They believed in small, repeated contact with discomfort. No delaying, no hiding, no excuses, just facing it, moment by moment. They called it preparation. Today, we call it fear hunting. Here's what that looks like in real life. Marcus, a quiet software developer, had a dream. He wanted to teach others to code, to lead free public workshops. But there was one catch. Public speaking terrified him. Every time he stood before a group, his voice cracked, his mind froze, and he'd leave before it started, full of excuses. Then one day, after reading a quote from a Stoic philosopher, he stopped running. He made a choice. He began with the tiniest steps, just saying his name during team meetings. Then he took it a bit further, presenting short code snippets to a small group of 5. 3 months later, he hosted his very first workshop with 12 attendees. His voice still trembled, his hands still sweated, but for the first time, he stayed. And that alone was his victory. Not because the fear vanished, but because he moved anyway. That's the real shift. Action generates momentum. Momentum fuels progress. And progress? It's fear's greatest weakness. Think about it. Fear hits hardest when you pause, when you freeze, when you rehearse every possible outcome in your mind like a broken record. But the second you move, even just a little, your body starts adjusting. That's not just feel-good talk. It's backed by neuroscience. Your brain rewires itself through repetition. That's called neuroplasticity. Every action is a signal telling your nervous system, we can handle this. Do it enough times, and what once scared you becomes just another step forward. If public speaking terrifies you, don't start on a stage. Just speak up during a small team huddle. If rejection stings, don't go after your dream role yet. Instead, ask a friend for honest feedback. If being on camera makes you nervous, record a short video of yourself each morning. You don't even have to share it. That tiny first step becomes a mental anchor. And once it's in place, your momentum takes over. Here's what's wild. Action reduces fear, and reduced fear encourages more action. It's a loop, not courage, consistency. And all of it starts with one decision, a jump into the unknown. Not because you're brave, but because you've decided not to let fear be the one calling the shots anymore. So here's what I want you to do. Stop reading. Right now, think of one thing you usually shy away from. Nothing massive, just a small thing you tend to put off. Got it? Now ask yourself this. What can I do in the next 5 minutes to get just a little bit closer to it? Send a message, write one sentence, take one small action, then do it. Don't analyze it, don't wait, just move. Because if you don't, fear will start talking again, and this time it'll whisper, "See, I knew you wouldn't do it." But here's the truth. You don't need more time, you need more contact. You don't need more bravery, just more momentum. Still unsure? Then think about all the fears you used to have. The ones that barely affect you now. You didn't talk yourself out of them. You faced them over and over. If you've made it this far, you're already halfway through the resistance. That's not just good, it's proof that something inside you is shifting. Tap the like button as a way to mark this moment. Not for me, for you. To show that you didn't quit in the middle. And whatever you do, don't stop here. The next parts are where we take everything you've stirred up and turn it into a new foundation. A version of you who doesn't serve fear, but uses it. Who turns fear from a wall into a window. Keep going. The shift is already happening. Number 5 is this. Rewrite the story you tell yourself. Because fear isn't just a feeling that passes. It's often the lens through which you view your entire self. And the worst part? It's rarely about failure or embarrassment. At its core, it's the quiet belief that maybe you don't deserve better. Nobody ever says it out loud, but you can see it in the way we pull back, in the way we stay small. Not because we aren't capable, but because we're still living by an old narrative we never chose. I'm not enough. I shouldn't dream that big. I'm meant to stay invisible. These aren't loud, dramatic thoughts. They're subtle, quiet assumptions that silently shape our choices. And the tragedy is that most people never even notice they're following a script. They just keep living it. They move through life as though that old script is fact, not fiction. Fear isn't just a feeling anymore. It's an identity. You stop thinking, "What if I fail?" and start believing, "I'm the kind of person who fails." What began as a fleeting worry slowly cements into a belief, then a self-definition. And once fear becomes part of who you are, you'll cling to it. Letting go feels like erasing yourself. Take Elijah, for example, a soft-spoken athletic coach with massive potential. He passed up 3 major opportunities, creating his own course, speaking publicly, and joining a global brand. On the surface, it was always about timing, about needing more prep, about not being quite ready. But the real story lived in his head. There was a voice, his father's, always whispering, "You never finish anything." And over time, that voice didn't feel like doubt anymore. It felt like fact. Elijah didn't reject chances, he was just playing his role. That's how powerful fear-scripted identities can be. Then one day, after a health scare shook his routine, Elijah scribbled 3 lines in a notebook. "If this were my final day, what would I want people to remember about me? What legacy would I want to leave?" That single question cracked through the hard shell of his story. He didn't do anything dramatic. He simply rewrote one mental line. "I'm someone who finishes." That's the essence of Stoicism, not shouting affirmations into the mirror, but slowly swapping old narratives for new ones. It's about practicing new thoughts on purpose. If your mind were a stage, ask yourself, who's writing today's script? Because if you're not, fear is. And fear never runs out of outdated monologues to hand you. Want to change that? Start here. See the exact scenes where the rewrite begins. You've been dodging it, but this time don't see it going wrong. Visualize the best case, not Fantasyland, not magic, just the version of you that's possible, believable, and just beyond today. You speak and people listen. You hit send and get a positive reply. You take the leap and realize you're still standing. That's how emotional rewiring works. Repeated mental pictures beat logic every time. And when the image begins to take hold, speak it aloud. Keep it crisp, honest, bold. Your words, not borrowed ones. It should be something you sort of believe already and want to believe even more. For Elijah, it was, I finish things, or just I keep moving. These aren't feel-good phrases, they're movement cues. And when your actions begin to shift, your brain eventually stops backing the old narrative because the evidence on the outside doesn't support it anymore. Take a pause. Shut your eyes. Don't imagine disaster. Picture what should happen if life were fair and courage were free. Then ask yourself, how long have I lived inside a story someone else wrote for me? The truth might rattle you, but that jolt, that's your wake-up call. Don't let it fade, because rewriting your story isn't the end. It's the spark. Without real habits and structure, that new identity will get drowned out by old loops. This is why daily practices aren't just nice, they're necessary. Not to fix how you feel, but to reshape what you become. Let's move to the next step, the discipline that makes transformation stick. Number 6, build daily discipline. Build daily discipline and habits. You get out of bed and head straight into an ice-cold shower. Not because you're obsessed with being extreme, but because you're teaching your brain something vital. I face discomfort and I keep going. It might sound intense, but this is where real mental freedom begins. You're not sitting around waiting to feel courageous. You're taking the lead. That's what fear can't stand. It thrives on waiting, delays, the illusion that later will be easier. The longer you pause, the stronger it becomes. But when you choose discomfort at 6 a.m., whether it's a freezing shower, a hard conversation, or a long postponed task, you build momentum before fear even wakes up. The day doesn't begin with a soothing playlist or a perfect latte. It begins with a decision. And if your first move is to attack, you set the tone. Every time you push forward, you lay another brick. Over time, those bricks build a foundation, and that foundation is discipline. Quiet, steady, unshakable. Have you realized fear doesn't strike when you're in motion? It creeps in during stillness, in the quiet moments when you hesitate, on the mornings you stay buried under blankets, scrolling, on the breaks that turn into abandonment. But when your heart's racing, your muscles working, and your focus locked in, fear can't keep up. Because you've left the mental arena and entered your physical reality. That's where fear has no grip. Most people try to boost their confidence with feel-good quotes in the mirror. But your brain doesn't trust words, it trusts results. So the next time you feel stuck, ask yourself, what proof do I have that this fear is true? Or even better, haven't I already conquered worse before? You're practicing something deeply stoic, testing emotions through logic. It's like flipping on a flashlight and seeing that the terrifying shadow was just a pile of laundry. Once the illusion breaks, fear doesn't vanish, but it begins to shrink. Slowly, subtly. And yes, it may look boring, making your bed, sending that email, writing in your journal. But every tiny task you finish is a signal to your brain. You can count on me. That's what real trust looks like, following through. Not just when you're inspired, but when it's dull, uncomfortable, or inconvenient. Brad Isaac once shared advice Jerry Seinfeld gave him. Want to get better? Write every day. Mark a red X on your calendar. Then don't break the chain. It's not flashy, but it works. Because courage doesn't show up once in a cinematic climax. It's forged in the unnoticed repetition of ordinary effort. Maybe now you're asking, okay, but is this really enough to defeat fear? The truth is, no. There's no final boss battle. Fear doesn't disappear in one swing. It erodes through action, decisions, routines, bit by bit. Each time you jot down, I was afraid of this. I did it anyway. Here's what happened. You're converting fear into something measurable. And once it becomes data, it loses its power to freeze you. Data isn't scary. It's useful. So take a second. Think ahead to tomorrow. What are 3 small tasks you've been dodging? Will you do them? Not because motivation strikes, but because you now understand something vital. The real price of fear isn't doing something risky. It's doing nothing at all. Over time, you'll begin to see you've changed. Not because fear vanished, but because you stopped needing it to vanish. You'll start doing the things that once paralyzed you, even if your heart races, even if your hands tremble. And here's the twist. You won't need anyone's approval. No applause, no likes, just a quiet knowing you're the one driving your life now. But maybe you're still wondering, why go through all this effort? The answer lives in what follows. Because without action, without structure, without guts, the price you pay isn't fear itself. The real loss is something much deeper. It's the legacy you never get to leave behind. The cost of clinging to comfort isn't safety, it's absence. It's being remembered as someone who almost lived. Your legacy and the cost of excessive safety. Number 7, your legacy and the cost of excessive safety. Ever locked eyes with someone in their final days? Not someone afraid of death, but someone quietly wrecked by regret. Regret over the dreams they never chased, the versions of themselves they buried, the art they never shared, the journey they kept delaying, the apology they never made, the risk they kept postponing. Around their hospital bed, you won't find dramatic final words. You'll hear whispers, haunting ones. What if? We think fear stops us from leaping into big dreams. But that's not all. Fear stops us from starting, from saying sorry, trying something small, speaking our truth. It doesn't yell, it murmurs things like wait, later, not yet. And in those tiny hesitations, a whole life slips by, not with a crash, but with a quiet fade. That's what makes safety so dangerous. Stoicism doesn't tell you to feel nothing, it asks you to move anyway. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. The problem isn't fear itself, the problem is when fear takes control of your life. The true tragedy isn't failing, it's never knowing what you were truly capable of because you didn't give yourself the chance to find out. Imagine that every decision you make today adds a brick to the foundation of your personal legacy. Each time you push through fear, you build another layer. People won't remember the ones who always played it safe, but they will remember those who moved forward despite the fear. Those are the ones who change the course of history, ignite passion, and leave behind a legacy that endures long after they're gone. It's not the number of followers you have that matters. It's the way you made people believe they could be better versions of themselves. There's a powerful line in the Bible. To one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. When you don't act on what you know is right, it's not just a missed opportunity, it's a betrayal. Not of others, but of your own untapped potential. You weren't born to follow a predictable, safe routine. You were born to make a difference, however small that impact might be. And that won't happen if you keep waiting for fear to disappear before you begin. So how do you shift? It's simple. The next time fear shows up, don't run from it. Take that small step. Send the email. Share the idea. Make the call. Do it while afraid. Don't wait for the moment when you feel ready. Let your actions be your refusal to let fear dictate your life. And with each step, you're writing a new chapter in the story only you can tell. Pause for a second. Close your eyes. Think of something you've been avoiding out of fear. Something small. Something you can do right now. Then ask yourself, if I did this today, how could it change my life a year from now? This isn't just a suggestion. This is real. This is how you begin to take control of your life. Because if you don't write the story of your own life, fear will take over and write it for you. If you're ready to stop letting fear shape your legacy, comment "Build my legacy" to signal the start of a story worth telling. How many times have you told yourself, just a little longer, maybe next week, or I'll start when I feel more ready? Be honest, you've probably said it countless times. But here's the truth. There is no such thing as the perfect moment. There's no day when you wake up feeling invincible, with everything perfectly aligned and all obstacles removed. Fear doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It disappears only when you take action. Even if you're still trembling, even if doubt lingers. Confidence isn't the requirement, action is. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. You always have a choice. Stay stuck in fear, wrapped in the guise of caution, or embrace freedom, even if it means acting while still afraid. If you're serious about truly eliminating fear, not just quieting it temporarily, don't wait. Begin now with 5 simple, actionable steps. They might be small, but they're powerful enough to dismantle procrastination at its core. Step 1. Name your fear clearly. Don't settle for vague statements like "I fear failure" or "I'm afraid of rejection." Be specific. "I'm afraid to send that collaboration email because I might get rejected." Clarity is the first step toward reclaiming your power. The moment you identify your fear, you take back a piece of the strength it once had over you. Step 2. Face the fear with strategy. You don't need to leap headfirst into the fire. Exposure can be gradual and controlled, just like cold training. No one gets thrown into ice on their first day. Start by writing the email without sending it. Read it aloud, then share it with a trusted friend. The more you expose yourself, the more your nervous system learns that this fear is just an illusion. Step 3. Create a simple morning ritual. Don't let your emotions decide the course of your day. A daily affirmation like, "I take action even when I'm afraid," can rewire your instincts when repeated each morning. Then, do something small that feels like a win. Make your bed, jog for 5 minutes, tidy your desk. Small victories lead to momentum, and momentum builds belief in yourself. Step 4. Move your body. Fear thrives in tense muscles and shallow breaths. Movement is more than just exercise. It's proof that you still have control. Walk briskly for 15 minutes. Do 10 push-ups. Jump rope for a minute. Do anything that reminds you that you're in charge of your body. This is how the Stoics trained themselves. Through action, not just meditation. Step 5. Reflect each night. Not to complain, but to track your progress. Write down one thing you did that made you proud, even if it's tiny. This builds evidence against the lies that fear keeps whispering. You don't need to write much, just be honest. Writing it down is your declaration. I'm building my legacy one small action at a time. And if these steps seem too small, remember this. It's the small things done consistently that change lives, not grand gestures. Daily commitment matters. Fear doesn't vanish because you're brave once. It fades because you stop letting it stop you, over and over again. Courage becomes a habit. So stop scrolling through another self-help book. Don't click play on yet another motivational video. Close all your tabs, stand up, take a breath, and begin. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to start. Now we've just explored 8 powerful ways to break through fear. Not with empty slogans, but with clarity, discipline, and deliberate action. You've learned that fear isn't the enemy, it's a test. It doesn't need to be crushed with force, it needs to be met with awareness and intention. We learn to recognize its false voice and stop obeying it blindly. Courage isn't a feeling, it's a choice. Freedom doesn't come from avoiding risk, but from facing ourselves, step by step, especially those limits we once believed were unbreakable. As you begin to practice this, rewriting your inner script, building a morning ritual, moving your body, and facing fear one step at a time, you're no longer a victim of fear. You're becoming the author of your own story. No one else can live your life for you, and no one else can erase your fear. But you can, and you start right now. If this video resonated with you, if it helped you see an old limit in a new way, hit that like button if you haven't already. It's the easiest way to spread meaningful ideas. Share in the comments what fear you're facing right now and what you're ready to take action on today. If someone in your life needs to hear this, send them the video. Sometimes, one message at the right time can change someone's journey. And don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started. More real, deep, and inspiring content is coming your way, made just for you.